The details surrounding Justin Champagnie's injury have been revealed, and unfortunately, they're a little bit worse than expected. So I'm going to break down this entire situation and how it could impact his future with the Toronto Raptors. Additionally, we have a Kevin Durant update to report on, as there's lots of drama surrounding the betting odds that have a lot of Raptors fans expecting something crazy might happen in the next couple of days, so I want to provide some clarification to everything that's been going on. Team Canada suffered a heartbreaking loss to the USA yesterday, and Jeremy Lin is popping back up in Raptors news. So lots of stuff to dive into. Without further ado, let's dive straight into it. Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors side, is breaking down the latest Toronto Raptors news. And the first thing we're talking about is, unfortunately, Justin Champagnie has fractured his thumb. And this is heartbreaking news as a guy that, loves me some Champagnie Poppy. Loves
all right.
what Justin Champagnie was able to provide for this Raptors squad this previous season as an undrafted rookie, coming in and really impressing a lot of Toronto Raptors fans. And I know a lot of people were excited to see Champagnie play in the Summer League, see how his game has grown, see, obviously the Raptors were making a playoff push. The leash was a little bit tighter on the young guys last season, but having a little bit more free reign. We wanted to see how Justin Champagnie could do. And unfortunately, we're not going to see it. As coming from Air Korean, Justin Champagnie has a small fracture in his left thumb and is out for the rest of Summer League. Obviously, I broke it down in our post-game reaction video, right? Champagnie had the brace on his hand. We didn't know how serious it was, but it does seem more serious than expected, as he'll be out for the rest of Summer League. And these thumb injuries, they're really weird to put a timeline on, because given, and thankfully Eric said that if it's a small fracture, I'm assuming that's better than a big fracture, but just given all the information we're provided, small seems bigger than or better than big. But given where the fracture could be, the ligaments that are torn, whatever's happening inside it, right, it does have a significant impact on how long he could potentially be out. So it's tough to put a timeline on it, but we know he'll be out for the next couple of weeks at least. And this is a huge opportunity missed for Justin Champagnie. As I also touched on our post-game reaction video, that Armoni Brooks was playing electrifying. This guy was absolutely on fire in the game yesterday, and obviously Armoni, Champagnie, and DJ Wilson, they're all fighting for one of the back spots in the Toronto Raptors roster right now. I know that there's a bit of controversy. People are saying that the Raptors should waive guys like Svima Hailuk or someone like that to open up some roster space to get one of the more exciting prospects, at least in the hearts of Raptors fans. More a position to actually get some run on the team and come back and get a guaranteed slot, but doesn't seem like that will be the case. We'll see what Masai Ujiri ends up doing. This could all be irrelevant if a big trade does go down, which I'll talk about the rest in this video, but it seems like there's only one real roster spot for all the guys that are fighting for a position in the Summer League. The rest of them fighting for a 905, big position on that team or something like that. So it's unfortunate for the Raptors, just given how well he played last season. He was a rotation player essentially for 2/3 of the season, it felt like, until he ended up fouling Kevin Durant 3 straight times in the last in the first 3 minutes of the fourth quarter in one game against Brooklyn. Then it doesn't seem like we saw him for the rest of the season after that moment happened. But his rebounding, his defense, his energy, right, he brought a whole different dimension of what a guard can provide to a team. Just completely changed the energy when he was out there on the court. He also was a solid 3-point shooter, which meant, he could space the floor for other Raptors, and that was a huge plus for this team last year. Obviously, the consistency was a bit of a factor. Fouling from that game, especially that anecdotal game, right? That was an issue, as it is with most young guys. But I thought there was a lot of potential with Champagnie. And this is not to say he will definitely not make the roster. Nurse still speaks extremely highly of the guy, but it's going to be tougher now that he can't really show what he got in this year's Summer League. Because this is where the young players really sort of duke it out for those final roster spots, see who's deserving of those, guaranteed contracts, that guaranteed money. And while looking at the body of work from last season, I'd take Champagnie over an Armoni Brooks. If Armoni Brooks, the ball is now in Armoni Brooks' court for fighting for one of those final roster spots. And if he continues to hit 5-6 threes a game, for this Raptors team, then it's going to be tough for the Raptors to cut him, especially when there's no real body of work, at least in Summer League, for Champagnie. Now, doesn't make sense for the Raptors to cut any of these guys during Summer League. So, I'm assuming this thumb injury isn't something drastic that's going to keep him out for training camp and preseason. But every opportunity you have to show what you got out there on the Raptors squad or on any team, right? That's going to be huge. And fighting against, where you're sort of free reign. You can do whatever you want in Summer League, more so than, not whatever you want, but do more than what you can with the main club, right? Champagnie really had an opportunity to show what he's got, show what he's worked on over the summer. And unfortunately, it's been taken away from him. So, not to say that Champagnie has been cut or anything like that, to say he will be, but it's going to be a tougher road for him to make one of those final roster spots, as the team seems very intrigued by DJ Wilson. They seem very, if Armani Brooks is playing like this, it's encouraging. So, tough situation for our guy, Champagnie Poppy. But
yeah. All right.
I brought up in that situation how a potential trade could open up some roster spots. And this is not your average Svi Mykhailiuk for a second round pick trade. Play the Fiji water animation whenever I get a chance to, but we got to talk about an update on the trade everyone has their eyes on this offseason, and it's a Kevin Durant Raptors update. Now, the first thing I'll talk about, I know it's been going around Reddit, Raptors, Twitter, but there was this picture floating around, Masai Ujiri working the room around Summer League. You see Masai there on the left, see Sean Marks, the general manager of Brooklyn, the guy that decides who makes the trades for Brooklyn, there on the far back, and then Adrian Wojnarowski, ready to see if a deal gets struck, in the open hallways of a Raptors. I'm assuming some NBA team Summer League game. Woj is ready to bring out the tweets and say a trade was coming. But that picture shows there's still some talks, regardless of what it's about. I'm assuming it's about Kevin Durant, assuming it's about something, but there's still engagement happening there with the Raptors and Sean Marks. That's not what the big news, the big dramas that's been going around, but the odds that have been reported on over the past week or so have mostly come from DraftKings. And a couple of Redditors, a couple people around Raptors Twitter noticed today that the draft odds were gone. You cannot go see them. And occasionally in the past, the betting odds, when they get removed, it means either big news has been coming or we're getting a quick, like when the NBA draft order selection happened, people were predicting Jabari was going to be number 1, Chet 2, Paolo 3, and then it got leaked a day before that what the specific order would be. And then after it got leaked, DraftKings immediately took their odds off the board, because once it gets leaked, once people know what's going to happen, or if it's going to happen right immediately, then people can just straight up bet on the right answer and just make money off the sportsbook. So that's a reason people are speculating that the odds could be taken down. However, this was debunked by other Raptors fans, other internet detectives out there, essentially saying that the prop bet was not supposed to be something that was going to be a long time. And it was supposed to be taken down by July 9th, July 8th, some specific date. So nothing crazy in terms of a betting odds there. We got a less information to go off of now as NBA fans to see where Kevin Durant could potentially end up. But you can no longer bet on it. So I hope you bet on it when it was plus 3,600, whatever it was. And hopefully it happens. You make your money as a Raptors fan. But we'll see what ends up happening with the KD situation. Nothing crazy going on. Woj reported that these teams are going to be talking a bunch over Summer League. But there's no rush. There's no rush for either the Nets and especially the Raptors. Because, the Raptors especially. Because if Ayton signs a restricted free agent offer sheet, then their biggest competition are out of the running to acquire KD. So we'll see what ends up occurring. But that's not the only bit of news we're diving into. Not a crazy KD update, but Team Canada unfortunately took an L to the Team USA in the U23 Global Jam tournament. And this was a tough one. Team Canada started off very hot in the game, but and they beat the USA a couple days ago. It's mostly, even though it's U23, it was mostly young up and coming prospects. But unfortunately, the Raptors just couldn't get it done against Team USA. And it was a fun game to watch. I'm not too familiar with a lot of the younger guys that are coming up in the system. It's not like crazy names like Wiggins or RJ Barrett or even Nabhart, who I ended up playing. Him and RJ played in a tournament against, right? So it was cool to see Team Canada get a win against the USA a couple days ago. Unfortunately, they couldn't close out in the semifinals in this one. But, shout out to Team Canada growing. Anytime you're competing with the US, you're giving some scares into them. It's encouraging. But the US did have a couple guys. One guy, I believe, popped off for 37. The name is slipping from me now. I gave it a watch last night. I just wanted to bring it up on this podcast. Give some recognition to the Canadian folks, right? The Raptors Digest logo is kind of more of a Team Canada logo, I feel like. We got the maple leaf there. So, shout out Team Canada. Always want to see them succeed and win. Unfortunately, couldn't win the Global Jam tournament. And the final bit of news that we're talking about is Jeremy Lin wanting to retire as a Toronto Raptor. Now, this is news that caught me by surprise because obviously Jeremy Lin won his NBA championship with the Toronto Raptor. Following that season, there's a lot of news about him wanting to come back in the NBA and get picked up by a team. He thought he wasn't done, and then we really didn't hear from him since. Played for I believe the Beijing Ducks, I think for a little while, so didn't retire professionally by any means following that season, but he wants to finish his NBA career back in the NBA. And if Jeremy Lin were to retire a player, right, and he said, so essentially the report is that Jeremy Lin wants to sign a one-day contract with the Raptors just to end his career, which I respect. I'm glad he loved this organization that so much, but he only played a half a season with us, and he didn't get that much run, didn't get that much opportunity with our team. So if someone asked me what team would Jeremy Lin come back and sign a one-day contract with, I feel like it would be the New York Knicks, given that really put him onto the scene. Lin's sanity was going crazy. That must have been electrifying for him, right? Opened his doors as an NBA player and became a very solid role player for years after it. But I'm surprised the Raptors were the team he chose. So shout out to Jeremy Lin. He seemed to love his time with Toronto. Obviously won an NBA championship, but cool stuff. I like the Raptors, especially if he's going to retire. Give him a one-day contract. Give him a cool photo op. If he wants to come back, you love to see it. But that's updates on the Toronto Raptors news. You guys are the best to make this far. Check out the Instagram, the TikTok, the Twitter, all that cool stuff. Anyways, enough of me rambling. Subscribe to the channel if you want to keep updated on the latest Toronto Raptors news. I'm signing off. Cheers.